everybody. Welcome to today's budget work session. We are starting with budget note and funding options.
So we'd like to call Nick Sadler to the podium. He will do the agenda in a reverse. The memos should go first, and then the last piece of business from the Office of Budget and Management Services will be budget note number 7. So Nick Sadler, who is the Interim Assistant Director in Budget and Management Services.
Thank you, Marshall. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just want to, like Marshall said, walk you through item number 2. There are 3 memos as you consider the budget today. The first item is a technical correction memo, and we bring these with the budget from time to time. These are items that staff are recommended being included in the FY23 adopted budget that were not included in the FY23 proposed budget for various reasons. Also want to make a note of one other item, the new Convention Center Complex Fund, which was in your proposed ordinances. That should be $3 million instead of $6 million. We've made that change, and it's reflected in the ordinance packet that's on board docs today. So happy to take any questions regarding the technical memo.
Do we have any questions for Nick? Okay, thank you.
We'll move right along. Second item is the FY 2023 Council Phase Memo. This records any changes that the Council made from when we presented the budget, the manager's proposed budget on May 17th till this date. So if there are any questions about that, happy to answer that.
Any questions related to that? Okay. Thank
Finally, one more item. We have at the request of council, we wanted to document the request that came from budget notes that council asked us to consider once we have closed the books on FY22. So if you remember, there were 4 or 5 items that you asked us to bring back once the books are closed and we have a understanding of what our general fund capital reserve is. This is our attempt to document those items so that we can then bring those back and prioritize and help you prioritize those items for funding.
Which document is that? What's the name of that document?
That is the items for future funding consideration.
Any questions on that? Nope.
All right.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor. So just to be clear, this is the item, I guess, the budget note that I had on there on the sidewalks and petitions, that falls under this document right here. So do I not have to make a motion on that to at least make sure that's prioritized in our capital reserves? I thought there was something we had to do.
I'll include it in my motion.
You'll include in the overall motion? And what will your motion say? It'll be part of
Yes.
our future discussions on the budget, on the capital reserves as a priority.
Not the top priority, but the top priority is
But as a
retention
priority.
bonuses.
I mean, I thought that was what we
Yes,
agreed to last
the
week.
top priority.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll ask Derek Smith from the Budget Management Services Department to come up now.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Derek Smith, Budget Management Services. This afternoon, I'll provide an update on the workforce investments the city has made in the proposed FY23 budget and provide a response to the budget note request from Councilmember Buffkin at the June 6th budget work session. Here's a list of the investments the city has made for our employees in the proposed FY23 budget. The city added the COLA adjustment, which Council approved in April, for $5.3 million, an additional $5.3 in adjustments for our public safety units, ECC, fire, police, for bringing employees to the new minimum salaries and merit adjustments, $4 million in general open range merits, and $2.1 million in broadband merits for those employees. A total of $140,000 in living wage and market review adjustments, and $3.2 million in our part-time employee compensation increases, and $1.9 million in permanent part-time adjustments. Once again, we have not increased costs for employees in the FY23 budget for health premiums. The city has taken on those costs. And this is a total investment in our workforce of $21.9 million in FY23. Now moving along into the budget note number 7 request. At the June 6th budget work session, Councilmember Buffkin requested development of an alternative that would establish a minimum range for firefighters at $52,969. Based on the city manager's input at that time, it was recognized that a proposal would need to adjust the remaining job classifications within the fire family to prevent additional compression. Additionally, the city manager recommended that staff provide an alternative market-based differential for police pay ranges based on the 52,000 firefighter salary. I'll get into the specifics of how we did that as we move through the presentation. So for comparison purposes, I'll start with highlighting again what is currently in the city manager's proposed budget in FY23. There are new pay ranges based on the Wake County average minimum salary for sworn police and uniformed fire positions plus 6%. Part of the proposal included the cost to implement the 2% cost of living adjustments. And next we will implement merit increases early for fire and police in August, which comes at additional cost of $400,000 to the merits. The total cost for merit increases for both fire and police is $4.5 million. The cost has increased slightly since we presented in April due to the increases in merits from 4 and 2% to 5 and 3% for those employees in the open pay structure. If employees are still below those minimum pay ranges, we will bring those employees to the new minimum salaries, and that comes at an additional cost of $1.7 million. For a total cost of $8.6 million of increases in FY23. So in our current fire pay range, we have proposed minimum salaries here on this chart of starting firefighter salary of $46,000. On the far right, you can see the percent change difference between what the current minimums are to what the proposed minimums are in the FY23 budget. The pay ranges for the minimum salaries for the firefighter positions have all changed except for the captain position due to its competitiveness in the local market. All other position minimum salaries have increased between 11 and 58%. So for the firefighter alternative pay range minimum, the percent change you see in the far right column is the percent difference between the new pay range minimum and our current pay range. So as you can see, those have increased from 14 to 80% in the alternative proposal. We start that alternative proposal at that $52,000 salary for the firefighter position, and the subsequent firefighter position minimum salaries are based on the percentage differential in the FY23 proposal. So for example, in the FY23 budget, there's a difference of 6% approximately between a firefighter and a senior firefighter position. In this proposal, we have added 6% to the senior firefighter position above the firefighter pay. And subsequently down that range, that's how we created those new minimum salaries. For the police pay range here, this is the FY23 proposal. Like I said, the percentage difference you see in the far right is what we have from the current to the proposed FY23 budget and the city manager's budget. Those ranges anywhere from 18 to 51% on those differentials. The sergeant position in this job classification has not changed due to its competitiveness in the market, but all the other have increased. For the alternative proposal for the police sworn positions, the alternative plan is based on the percentage change difference of the starting salary for a firefighter and police officer in the adopted proposal. So that's an 8% difference we have between our starting police officer position and our firefighter position in the FY23 budget. So we went ahead and did an 8% increase to the $52,000 you see. So that's how we came up with $57,000 for the police officer position. And then subsequently we did the same thing like we did for fire and made those adjustments down the pay range for the differentials how they are in the FY23 budget. So, for example, in the FY23 proposal, there's an 11.7% difference between a police officer and a senior officer. We made that adjustment here and so on. Here we have, this chart provides the estimated cost for the alternative plan for fire and police. It provides the cost for merit impacts, which are, as we talked about earlier, the 5% increases for employees below the minimum, or below the midpoint, and a 3% adjustment for those above the midpoint. And then if those employees have not made it to the minimum new pay range, there's an adjustment there, and bringing those employees up is provided in the chart. The alternative proposal for fire is $4.4 million and $6.2 million it would cost for police, which brings the total to $10.6 million increase for the alternative proposal. Now, we do have some of that funding already budgeted for the police and fire compensation increases. This chart shows the unfunded amount needed in the FY23 budget to pay for the alternative proposal. We currently have $6.2 million budgeted for police and fire increases in the FY23 proposal, so council would need to fund an additional $4.4 million in budget to pay for the alternative proposal. This does not include additional expenses for things like overtime due to the salary increases. Should council choose to add additional increases to the proposed budget for fire and police, council would need to identify categories or priority areas for potential reoccurring general fund reductions within the FY23 proposed budget or increases to the property tax rate to generate revenue sufficient to cover estimated ongoing costs. Attached to the agenda is the budget note detailing the funding options and the impacts for the tax rate increases by the quarter of a penny. Any questions?
Do we have any questions? Okay, no questions. Thank you.
So Mayor and Council, that presentation concludes the budget development process for FY23. As previously stated, the recommended budget has some strategic initiatives that address both community and council priorities, also a firm commitment to compensation concerns over the next couple of years. I am available to answer any questions that you may have. I think also the budget represents what we've heard through our community survey, what we've heard through our strategic plan conversations, as well as what we've heard at the council table. So I will entertain any questions that you have at this time.
Do we have any questions for the city manager? Okay. Great, thank you. Councilmember Buffkin.
Thank you, Mayor. In reference to Budget Note 7, I would like to first thank the staff for all the work and additional analysis that has gone into the work on public safety raises. As I said at our last meeting, I think there's room for compromise here. These are big numbers, and we're all sensitive to the tax increase that we are going to be putting in place with this budget. Nonetheless, it's still my opinion that the raises in public safety don't meet the need of the moment. I'm very concerned about the situation in the fire department and the police department and the emergency communications center, and I think it's got real implications for our quality of life and our safety in this community. But in the spirit of compromise, I'm here today to propose a revision to the manager's proposed budget. And I would make that motion at this time that the manager's budget be revised to increase the ad valorem tax rate by 1/2 penny, and the manager be directed to apply the resulting funds of $3.9 million to additional public safety raises.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion fails 6-2. Right, I have a motion I would like to make. This is long, so bear with me. First, I want to say I appreciate the level of interest and public participation that we've had in the development and discussion of our 2023 budget. In particular, many in our community and our employees have encouraged us to prioritize employee pay. We know that our employees, all of them, have provided vital services throughout the COVID pandemic, are working smarter and harder to meet today's needs, and are struggling with inflation and cost affordability like so many others in our community. I want to thank the city manager for working proactively to begin to address these needs with a budget that includes a 2-cent property tax increase, which will cost the owner of an average price home in Raleigh approximately $66 per year. I'm proud to support many of the strategic recommendations that the city manager has included in this recommended budget. 1, more resources for community engagement, affordable housing, and equity work. 2, new resources to enhance our park system. 3, utility investments that will advance our climate goals. And if you've been outside today, you know we need work on that. And new mental health support services for our fire department. But most all, what I believe we're all really happy to advance is the fact that our employees are at the heart of this budget. I'm just going to go over a few facts. City manager, as you heard, has recommended an increase of nearly $22 million this year. Employee benefits, living wage and other pay range adjustments, merit increases, temporary and part-time pay rate increases, and the 2020 cost of living adjustments. I mean, that's a statement. It's also important to remember that our organization is not passing along new benefit costs to employees. And there are several key recommendations that stand out to me. In maintenance and operations, this budget provides equity adjustments, adjustment pay for 277 workers for a total investment of $488,000. The adjustment also includes $94,000 in pay adjustments for 59 employees in solid waste services. And these targeted pay adjustments are part of a larger package of employee pay enhancements with a total value of $674,000 for solid waste service workers. In the Emergency Communications Center, this budget invests $142,000 in market adjustments for 35 employees, including call takers, dispatchers, supervisors, and managers. These pay adjustments are included in total investments of $387,000 for our critical staff and ECC. We also increased the average temporary worker rate from $8.25 per hour to $11 per hour, and we raised the rate for lifeguards, our top recruitment priority, to $13 per hour. And as you've heard, police and fire range minimums were moved to the average of Wake County municipalities plus 6%, and increases have been accelerated from the timeline that they've been received in prior years. The cost of pay and benefit increases for police and fire alone equals $8.6 million, and that's more than half of the proposed tax increase. Feedback from our community, our employees, and the public have made it clear that our work to address financial priorities is not complete. We still have underfunded capital programs that would advance important community initiatives, and we must continue to support our talented workforce to remain an employer of choice. Having said that, I now move that we adopt the proposed budget, including all of the ordinances and resolutions included in the agenda materials, to advance the important investments before us. This includes the use of reserves for retention bonuses for our employees, which will be finalized once our 2022 budget is closed and our capital reserve calculation for 2023 is complete. And also instructs the city manager to ensure that police officer pay is increased during the next fiscal year so that these employees receive a minimum 10% increase over this 2-year period. Also asking the city manager to bring back to us Budget Note 1 on sidewalk investments once we have resolved the retention bonuses, our top priority. That is my motion. Do I have a second?
I think we've got to deal with these several recusals before we vote.
Yeah. Okay, we have 2 recusals. So what I'd like to do is get this done. Okay, so now we have a second. I would ask that we recuse Jonathan and Corey for their 4 different organizations. Could you list what boards you serve on?
And we need to do those one at a time. We need to
Yes.
recuse, yeah.
I'm on the board of directors for TLC, founded as Tammy Lynn Center, so I need to be recused from any vote regarding funding to TLC.
And we have done that before, so if, can we make that a standing motion?
He'll probably have to do it every time and record it with the clerk according to the general statutes. So
Okay.
what we should do then is he'll recuse and everybody will vote on Tammy Lynn now.
Yes, and then we will vote on the next 3, okay? All right, so.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, you're recused. Could we have a motion
So-
then?
Needs to be recused from.
Could you make a motion for
Oh,
Tammy
I'm sorry,
Lynn?
Tammy Lynn. I move for approval of Tammy Lynn funding.
Do we have a second? Second. Second by Mayor Pro Tem, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That was unanimous. Okay, now, Councilor Branch,
Passage Homes, Art Space, and United Arts Council. I be recused for those
Okay.
3.
I move to recuse Councilmember Branch from the 3 he just listed.
and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Stewart, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, can we have a motion for those 3 organizations?
Move to approve funding to those 3 organizations.
Second by Councilmember Fort, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That was unanimous. Thank you.
I also need to be recused. I serve as a non-voting member for DHIC and DRA as our council liaison, but out of an abundance of safety, I would like to recuse myself on those 2 budget items.
Move for recusal.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we will vote on those 2 items then. Who would like to make a motion?
I move to approve those 2 items.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Fort, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Councilmember Cox, your hand is up, but I can't tell what it was up for.
You asked if I was opposed. I'm opposed.
Okay, clerk, you've got all those registered in your notes?
We voted on the funding for DHIC, so I'm opposed to that.
That was for DHIC and Downtown Raleigh Alliance. Do you have all of that, clerk?
Okay.
Okay,
We're good.
so there's a motion and a second for the budget.
I'd like to make a comment on the budget, but I can do it after it's approved or not approved.
Okay. All in favor? Please raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
No.
Councilmember Buffkin and Cox opposed. Clerk.
Could I get the second on the motion to approve the budget?
It was Mayor Pro Tem Stewart. Okay, Councilmember Knight.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think this budget moves the city forward and is a light at the end of the pandemic tunnel for our community. So it's very important that we approved it. I appreciate the city manager and her staff for all the work done to complete this budget. I think that it is fair to all of our staff as well, including our first responders. But while it is fair, I don't think it solves the problem. While a part of city government, public safety officers and first responders are unique, and management, I believe, needs to deal with them uniquely. We're all aware coming out of the pandemic that the state of work is different across most sectors, that public safety and first responder departments are having trouble across the country, fully staffing back up. We get that this is a national issue. We get that this is an employees market out there as well, but we still have to figure out a way to deal with this problem. I don't think pay is the whole solution, but I do think it is an important part of the answer. I asked the city manager to continue working with the police chief on a plan to bring back to us how our police force comes back to appropriate full employment, and with, say, 3 months to present a status report on that issue, being as creative as possible, please. And I do also want to comment on some of the comments made last week from representatives from a group calling itself Refund Raleigh. They were inappropriate, they were egregious, and they were over the line. And I apologize to our public safety workers and first responders for not speaking out at that time and for defending them. And I'm very much do not like that kind of conversation in public. It was inaccurate and inappropriate. And so I hope we can move forward from that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Melton?
Thanks. I wanted to add something, something I've observed and heard over the past couple weeks regarding particularly the firefighter pay was the pay system or pay scale that they had presented or proposed was very different, I think, the structure from what the city is currently operating under. And it's my understanding that the city adopted that structure almost 6 years ago now, and I think it's probably time to look at it again. And I'd like the city manager's office to please look at what was proposed this year, work with them, and before the budget next year, see if we can move in that direction if that's what they want to do, if that's what the city would like to do.
I would just like to add to that. We heard that one of the reasons why the pay is structured the way it is because we have to meet national fair labor laws, and that relates to a 24-hour shift. So if I don't know this, I'm asking the question, does that mean if we change the pay structure, we also have to change the shift structure? And I think that that's something that you can research and come back to us on as well. And I would also ask that as part of this process that we survey the employees to see what they prefer. I'd like direct outreach. Okay, Councilmember Buffkin.
Thank you, Mayor. And of course, the reason for my vote today was primarily about public safety. There's another problem in this budget, but it's not unique to this budget. Raleigh has for a long time had a practice of keeping a very, very low amount of debt, well below the state limit. I believe it's well below what would impact our bond rating. Debt is a tool, and we need to use it wisely. We're a fast-growing city. We've got a growing tax base. We're going to be able to manage the debt. Our debt per capita has been coming down lately. So I think we need to be smarter about how we borrow money and build things, and we can pay for it as we enjoy using it. So as a follow-up item for the city manager, I'd like to request again some strategies and some detailed information on what increasing our use of debt would mean and what that state debt limit is and why we continue to be so low, and how much of that resource do we have available to do good for the community without impacting our bond rating. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you. This has been a long process. We started in February, was it? Or
We started in October. So
yeah,
yes.
we started in February.
Yes.
So I just want to thank everybody for all the hard work that went into this, all the thoughtfulness, all the adjustments that were made along the way, and just really, like I said earlier, our employees are at the heart of this budget. And thank you for being proactive, city manager, and making that happen. So with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.